Formulaic intro to an acoustic guitar video out the way.
Got to be in G.
Hey folks, Jack here from Peach Guitars. Welcome to the saloon stage once again, and you'll notice I've got a guest today. You may recognise Mr. Greg Dunning from a few videos we've done in the past with West Side products. Fortunately though, he is now here as a member of the Peach team.
Yeah.
Doesn't he look dashing in an all Peach Guitars get-up?
Yeah. I'm feeling very at home.
Well, welcome, Greg.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back. It always is. It's a pleasure to talk to you. But this is actually within your wheelhouse, so that's exactly why we wanted to do this today.
Yeah.
You may be wondering why we're doing this now, in fact. This is the new Martin SC13 guitar. Earlier this year at the NAMM show, I had the great privilege of chatting to Chris Martin briefly about this guitar. And I promised in that video that we'd very quickly do a follow-up. However,
You didn't.
contrary to some of his initial concerns, actually, about the popularity of this guitar, this just has not remained in stock ever since it was debuted and ever since it first arrived with us. So this is the first opportunity we've had, now some 7-8 months later, to actually do this video, and it just happens that Greg is here.
I think we only have, I think it's these two, isn't it? That's it.
I believe it is, yes, so we're being very careful with them.
I've taken my studded belt off.
Yeah.
And my bangles.
But the reason we're doing this, and the reason I thought it'd be great to do this with Greg, is because we want to kind of make the point that this guitar is going to open up a whole new world of to a whole new world of players that maybe hadn't considered a Martin guitar before. So I guess we should discuss the premise of what this is, and then exactly what I mean by that, opening up of a whole new world. So,
well, this is, I mean, it's totally different to anything Martin have ever done before. I mean, the obviously elephant in the room is the neck. The way they've kind of gone about the neck joint. It's still a dovetail, but it's a linear dovetail. Instead of slotting in that way, it now slots in that way. Right. And there are two bolts that hold the neck joint in place, so it's kind of not a bolt-on neck.
No.
The neck joint is bolted in there. And it's got a couple of options in there for shimming, so it's super easy to set up with your action. You can shim the neck this way and that, and you can also loosen the bolt and adjust the intonation by just popping the neck out that way a little bit. So it's
it's very clever. It's
super high tech. I haven't had a chance to fiddle around with it. I mean, back when I was working with these guys, it sort of happened when I was kind of on the way, if you know what I mean. So
right.
It's an offset body, which is something they've never done before. And the back and the sides are made out of a layered koa. So it's not something they've really done. They've always used like HPL or things like that, or solid woods. But they've now gone with this kind of layered kind of option, which is koa, and then mahogany, and then koa again. So you look inside, and it's sort of still got the koa in there, so it doesn't kind of. It's the same. You think it's the same bit of wood, but apart from that, it just looks ridiculous.
Well, it looks very much like a Martin guitar, and that's definitely the goal that every manufacturer should have, is to not have too much differentiation between their. They've
kind of gone out there
families.
A bit, but still kept their feet firmly in the Martin camp, and certainly tonally.
Yeah, they sound really good. They don't sound thin.
No.
Like some guitars of yesteryear, perhaps, that have veered more into the electronic side of acoustic guitar making have done.
Because when you try some of the brands that employ that kind of bolt method, and there are a few out there, they have a certain kind of quality to them, and it's not right or wrong. It kind of has I always think the attack is very different, whereas this, to me, despite the kind of accessibility and how it looks, it still kind of feels and resonates on your chest like a normal dovetail.
Well, that's right, and I think, like you said, there's no real sort of wrong or right with those kind of guitars, but previously maybe they did always attract a certain kind of player, perhaps someone who always intended to plug in at a gig or something like that. So the acoustic tone of the instrument maybe wasn't the overriding factor.
No, because acoustic used to be the thing, didn't you? You'd start on acoustic and then you'd get an electric, and we were talking in the black and white era. But then when you kind of nowadays people start on electric and then sort of go, oh, I need an acoustic. So the transition from electric to acoustic with this, I mean, I haven't played for ages.
But all he's done this morning is complain about the length of time he hasn't played guitar.
I've got soft fingers.
And yet it sounds fantastic, as you'll have heard in that intro.
But it doesn't feel weird.
Is it a forgiving guitar to your
thankfully, yes.
To your hiatus?
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And you kind of it feels really comfortable straight away. Unlike There's not many acoustic guitars that feel like that.
No.
You go from like you're playing your Strat or whatever, and then you move to this, and you can kind of do the same thing and not feel like you're going out there a bit too much.
Yeah.
You're not stretching your ability because it just feels really good.
I guess maybe we should get into a little bit of the practicalities of the guitar. You already touched on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the new offset body design, first new body design or body shape for Martin in decades.
Yeah.
In your opinion, as a player, what do you think that benefits, and why do you think maybe they've decided to introduce it?
It feels firstly, it sits better on the body, and you're not foregoing any of that nice bottom end that you get from an acoustic guitar, because normally you'd on a dreadnought you'd be slinging your arm over.
Yeah.
Or a jumbo, or even a triple O to a certain extent, you get a bit. But they've just moved that bottom bout sort of down and just tagged it onto the bottom here.
Yeah.
And they've just squished everything that way, and couple that with the bracing, how they've done it. They've still employed the X, but they've scalloped the bottom, the treble side.
Okay.
So it evens it all out a little bit, and it just sounds and feels nothing. It's weird. Nothing for me. Playing the first time playing it, it felt like nothing really changed.
I agree. I've only had very, very limited playing time with this guitar. Literally just occasionally picking one up when it's come through and playing a chord. And we both remarked just by playing at the start that it's very liberating from what you'd normally expect from an acoustic. I mean, you are Shred Maestro #1, and all
20
that
years
stuff,
ago, yeah.
all that stuff still translates very well onto this
You
guitar.
can play some disgusting licks on it, and it will go with you.
Yeah,
You
and
kind of have to dial it in a bit.
you do. And to that end, we're not going to demonstrate that in this particular video, but
Are we?
well, the playing maybe, but what I was going to say was the tonal capabilities of this guitar. This was really billed as not specifically to be a hybrid acoustic electric, but certainly to have a little bit more capability in that realm. So you've seen a few demos of people playing these guitars plugged straight into a board, or maybe with some kind of like distortion pedal or
overdrive
something.
pedals. Yeah,
So
which should back in the day was like should never do that, but it kind of did it.
it's quite brave.
Yeah.
But I do think from the results I've heard anyway, it does deliver on that promise, if you like. So maybe we should just get into playing it a little bit more. You'll have heard at the start me doing very stereotypical acoustic guitar demo playing, open G chords and stuff like that. But what Greig was doing was totally different to that, and hopefully you'll hear in the mix that I think they sit alongside very well with each other. There's no kind of... Sometimes with acoustic guitars you find they just have very problematic frequencies as well. It's not always the case that guitars play nicely with each other. So this is probably a good instrument to consider if you are in slightly more of a dense band mix situation as well. You need something to cut a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always the struggle. I always feel sorry for the poor acoustic guitar playing singers in a band who, when we've got a legion of amplifiers behind us, it's not really fair. But the whole point of this guitar is to be able to crank it up on stage louder because of this asymmetrical body and the bracing.
Yep. It's more resistant to feedback as well.
Yes.
Because of the way they've braced it. So it's just a useful live tool.
Okay, so I'm sure a lot of you watching right now will just be saying, shut up at this point. We've heard all the talk. What does it actually sound like? That's the important thing. So I'll do a little bit of playing. Greg can do some playing as well, and we'll just try and convey the versatility of this thing. You're going to hear a blend as well of not only this mic, but the onboard pickup. I think the pickup is kind of the crowning achievement in this guitar, at least tonally, that they want to push. So let's see what it sounds like. So open chordy stuff I think works really well, particularly for the higher fretted end of the spectrum as well. If you want to get up there, this intonates really nicely too. So what's your go-to? Picking this guitar up for the first time, what would be a good? I'm not trying to put you on the spot here,
you have.
but I'm definitely going to.
Okay.
What would be your sort of go-to?
that's kind of approaching it from like just a hit in a normal
Yeah.
electric kind of guitar.
But you know, that's really interesting that you did that, because I'd never pick up an acoustic guitar and do that normally.
No.
So it's interesting that that was kind of where you went. I guess that just speaks to how this guitar really feels like a totally different animal. It doesn't feel like your regular acoustic guitar. It happens to perform like one if you want it to do so, but the feel of it is very different. So maybe, I know there's always these products that come along, but if you've never considered picking up an acoustic guitar before because it's just not what you're comfortable with, hopefully just those little two examples there of the totally different approaches that Greg and I just took to just instinctively play this thing. Maybe this is the instrument that you've been waiting for if you're more of an electric player.
Definitely.
Enough spiel for today. Thank you very much for watching, folks. If you want to find out any more information about this guitar, you can do so by clicking the link down below and going to peachguitars.com, of course. Do it as quickly as you can, because as I say, these things are quite sparse at the moment, quite scarce. So do your best to pick one up. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I think we should probably play out with some completely uninitiated, unsolicited
Go.
jamming. Let's see what happens.